Kia ora, good evening. More than 2,000 submissions have been presented to the Ministry for Primary Industries over proposed changes to commercial power fishing access in Southland. Commercial power operators currently have access to 500 kilometres of Southland and Otago coastline, and it's proposed another 25 be added. An opposition campaign was started in response to the proposal, with group Power to the People saying changes would affect recreational fishing stocks and future power supply. Commercial operators in the south have previously invested in reseeding power in an attempt to bolster stocks. Submissions will be evaluated, with the Minister making a decision on the proposal next month. Southland should be thinking about a plan B around the future of the Tiwai Point aluminium smelter, according to Labour Party Revenue and Associate Finance spokesperson David Cunliffe in Invercargill today. Sarah Bedford spoke to him about the smelter's future and negotiations.
This is something where the public really has no visibility to the current state of the negotiations. The CEO of Tiwai confirmed to me today that they are in talks. They're getting to the pointy end of those talks, as he put it. But none of us know the outcome of that, and that's a matter of some concern to everybody.
What do you think needs to be done around this situation?
Well, it's very hard for any of us to be able to definitively answer that without access to all of the information. So we believe this is a matter of huge public interest. My colleague Clayton Cosgrove, our state-owned enterprises spokesperson, and David Parker, our finance spokesperson, have both called for more information to be in the public domain, so that we can ensure that the public interest in Southland is being fully recognised in those negotiations.
Do you think we need government intervention?
Potentially, yes, although that has to be thought about quite carefully, both from a precedent point of view and in terms of the alternatives that may also be around. But one thing is clear, Meridian Energy cannot stand as a proxy for the whole public interest and the whole of government, unless it is either directed to do so by the government or the government stands behind it in some other material way. And as I say, it's very difficult for any of us to be definitive about that. When we don't have visibility to all of the data and the information, the first step is to make that clearer to the public.
Now, something you said today was that Southland should be looking at a plan B. Can you elaborate on that?
Well, look, none of us want to see the situation where Tiwai Point goes offline. It's a major contribution to the Southland economy, with some, I'm advised, 3,200 direct and indirect jobs, tens of millions of dollars pumped into the Southland economy, and not only a measurable boost, possibly around 10% of the Southland GDP or total turnover, but a significant boost nationwide. So we don't want to see that, but if the negotiations broke down and if the government did nothing about it, then we'd be in a very difficult situation. And so I think it's not too early for people to be asking the what-if question. What are the alternative uses that such a large amount of energy could be put to that would be of benefit to the region and to the country?
Invercargill and Gore have some of the worst air pollution in the country. Annual readings showed they were among the worst 5 areas in 2011. Environment Southland staff were today setting up a new air quality monitoring site at Glengarry, with another to be set up in Georgetown to better gauge air pollution in the city. Last winter, Invercargill had 23 air quality breaches. The Ministry for the Environment has set the target date for 1 breach a year in the city by 2020. Air quality scientist Owen West says the new equipment will give a better idea of air pollution in Invercargill.
We're going to be looking sort of longer term, so at this site is currently lower than the Pomona Street site in terms of concentrations, and so it's just once we start getting initiatives in place to reduce particularly air pollution, the second site will give us a bit of a reference as to how effective those are.
And you are looking at 3 sites, in fact?
Yes, there will be a third site back down near Miller Street where we've monitored in the past, and that site is to look at the long-term trends so we can have an idea of what's happened in Invercargill since we first started monitoring here.
Now, Invercargill is known to have poor air quality. Why is it so bad?
It's primarily due to domestic heating, so people lighting fires, whether it be wood or coal, and they're the main contributor. approximately 92% of PM10 emitted during the winter period is as a result of domestic heating. And I guess a lot of the fact as well is in terms of burner behaviour. A lot of people prefer to dampen down their fire later in the evening, and that sort of, it's not as efficient in burning and produces more particulate matter.
The Reserve Bank should continue to leave the official cash rate on hold at 2.5%, according to a panel of economists, academics and business leaders. The NZIER Shadow Board is recommending interest rates are kept on hold ahead of the Reserve Bank's statement tomorrow. NZIER Head of Public Good Research, Dr. Kinden Lees, says the economy grew very strongly at the end of last year and recent confidence indicators showed continued optimism. He says inflation is low, a high Kiwi dollar is reducing the price of imports and demand is weak, so firms are competing on price, reducing inflationary pressure. The OCR has sat unchanged for the past 2 years. Stay with us after the break. A Southland project 14 years in the making is moving closer to completion. Welcome back. Southland's and New Zealand's communication history is the focus of a museum development at Awarua. Located at the site of the former Awarua radio station, the Awarua Communications Museum has been 14 years in the making. Work on the building has been underway for a few years, but one of the big challenges is funding. The project has so far cost around $500,000 and about another $100,000 is still needed. The museum will show a range of communication technologies, including telephones, radio equipment and radar. Museum President Paul Mackay says the museum will be significant for the region.
Well, firstly, the Awarua radio station was one of two built in 1913, and that served a very, very large purpose in both wars. So that is part of the communications. The early communications started with the Invercargill telegraph line, and that was important too. It wasn't until 19 years later that Invercargill got telephones.
Now, for this project, it's been a long time in the making, hasn't it?
Yes, we've been going since 1999, and it wasn't until 2 or 3 years ago that we really got momentum going and decided that what we had was not suitable and that we needed to reconstruct and rebuild again, and that's where we're at this particular stage.
Now, for this museum, how unique would it be in terms of what's on offer around the rest of the country?
Well, it would be very, very unique in that there is no other communications museum anywhere other than the one I mentioned about Ferrymead, and Ferrymead is only along the lines of post office style. So from an educational point of view, this will be a fantastic venue.
Now, when do you hope to open?
As soon as we get the money, and it looks at this stage as though it will be early next year. But that is dependent on the money. If the money comes to hand beforehand, we will be opening early.
A new free service has been created at Invercargill City Council to advise ratepayers about alternative energy solutions in a bid to improve Invercargill's housing stock. I spoke to eco-design advisor Kieran O'Connell, who says on a world scale, New Zealand is behind the game.
Technology-wise, we've got everything there in place that most other countries have. The way we think and the way we use the technology is, I would say, 10 years behind the likes of Europe. They're leaders because they have a lot of issues with energy, climate as well. They have extreme climates, so they are really sort of leading the way, and we should really be keeping up with them considering the natural resources we have.
So you're talking about insulation and reducing energy bills from day-to-day life within the home, but you're also talking about ways that people can generate their own energy within the house. Yes,
it starts to be more of a growing trend with people looking at options of boosting, their energy by using PV, photovoltaics, and solar energy to sort of help heat water, because 1/3 of your bill goes to heating your hot water. So People are realising now that as energy prices grow, and there's obviously cheaper ways of actually sort of sustaining your house and making it more viable, your cost of living.
How cost effective is it to be looking at introducing an alternative energy source for the house?
It is getting cheaper. You're looking at an average solar panels for the average house. You're looking at between 10 and 15,000. General payback on that can be 10 to 15 years. You'll see immediate sort of results. You'll start, reducing your power bills. Where they used to sort of have the one-for-one sort of return as you pay back to the grid, it's sort of getting less and less. The power companies don't want to be paying, high prices, something they can produce a lot cheaper. So we're seeing that part of it dropping back down, but generally it makes a big difference, and there's also you've actually added to the asset of your house. Most houses with a solar system are being valued at $15,000 to $20,000 more than they were if they didn't have it.
An Invercargill teen was today recognised for her efforts after saving the life of her friend. 15-year-old Hannah McLean was presented with a Certificate of Civil Appreciation by Invercargill Mayor Tim Shadbolt in Council Chambers this afternoon. The award was in recognition of saving Bryn Murphy's life after his motorcycle flipped and landed on him during a camping trip. Hannah used her first aid training to attend to Bryn, who was breathing but unconscious. Councillor Lloyd Esler nominated Hannah for the award through the Community Services Committee. Just a few of the awards are presented each year. That's it from news. Coming up in sport, the second instalment of the interview with South African boxer Francois Botha. Good night.